could take quite some time. If only you had a motive for
Howdy, howdy, everybody. Hope y'all are doing well. I forgot my background music. Hold on. Anyway, hope y'all are having a good Thursday. We'll shuffle that. Nice, 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 nice. All right. That's already spaghetti. But yeah, hope y'all are having a good Thursday so far. I know it's been a hot sec since we've done Therapy Thursday. And by like a hot sec, it's I think 3 months. So I'd say that's a hot sec. I love doing these, so I just run out of topics to do sometimes. Just like, what am I supposed to talk about for like 5 bajillion hours? But after doing a little think-thonking, I decided to settle on stop that, Belle, wake up. Going over cognitive distortions. I think this is something we have briefly covered before, but I think they're pretty important, so I thought to do a whole stream kind of dedicated to where we go into them in depth. Talk about, oh, Jesus, examples of each kind, and how we can combat, negative thoughts by being able to recognize these cognitive distortions. So, with that out of the way, oh my god, I can't stop yawning. Why don't we start with should we start with this one? I'm thinking, oh my god, stop. Belle, if you don't stop yawning, there will be consequences. Alright, I think this is more southern than it is therapies. I want a mixture of Southern and therapy, not just Southern. I mean, yeah. All right. Boom. Hello. We are in, what is it called? Adobe PDFs. I know I'm covering some of the... Belle, stop! Oh my god. Alright. So, Cognitive distortions. What are cognitive distortions? Cognitive distortions is the fancy way to say basically thinking errors. These are errors in the way that we think, obviously, that influence our like logic and how we understand situations. These are very common. Everyone uses these. Oh my god. Belle. Wake. But these are also can be thought of in a way as like logical fallacies. It'll make more sense once we go through it. So the first one is called multiple things. It can be called polarized thinking, all or nothing, or black and white. I usually go with black and white thinking because that's a bit easier for some people to understand. Oh my god. Oh, Belle. Where is this? Does this one have a better? Yeah. I have lots of little thingy-mabobbers to bring up. So this is viewing things as either black or white. There is no gray, there's no middle ground. Examples of, if I'm not perfect, I have failed. Either I do it right or not at all. Another example. This looks a bit pixely on my screen. A more in-depth example would be a student who gets an A- on an exam feels like a failure because they're used to getting A+ grades only. They have the mentality, if I am not successful at everything I do, I am a complete failure. So that's like black or white thinking. If it's not left, it's right. If it's not right, it's wrong. If it's not good, it's bad. You know? There is no, in between. The next is mental filtering. There are two types of, can I get my highlighter? Haha, I can. There's two types of mental filtering. There's negative mental filtering. Oh my god. People are talking. Alright, okay. So, negative mental filtering is when you focus on the negatives of a situation, and you filter out the positives. Negative details are magnified, right? So an example of this would be an employee receives a good performance review but focuses on one negative comment their manager made about them. Oh my god, okay. Sorry about that. So the first type of mental filtering is negative mental filtering. That's focusing solely on the negatives of a situation. So again, the example is the employee receives a good performance review, but focuses on the one negative comment. The key thing is the one negative, right? So it's ignoring all of the positives and just focusing in on the negative. The other type is the disqualifying the positive. So this one acknowledges positives exist but refuse to accept. Oh my, I can't draw straight lines. But I can do this. No, I can't. No. There we go. But refuses to accept it. Finds excuses to turn it into a negative one. So an example of disqualifying the positive would be a student gets good grades, but overlooks it and tries to explain their good grades as simply luck or a fluke. So this is really common. Lord knows that I do it sometimes. Does this one have a good example? It just says noticing our failures but not successes. So, man, I'm really bad at school. And then your friend's like, well, okay, but you just got like an A on that last test. And you just simply brush it off with being like, that was just luck, you know? I just got lucky that time. Or, you know, you submit an art piece for a contest and you got like 3rd place. You would be focusing, be like, oh my god, you got 3rd place, and you're like, the judges just didn't know what they were doing. You know, the judges just felt bad for me. So it's always coming up with an excuse to justify why your success isn't valid, right? Or why the positive isn't valid. The next one is overgeneralization. So this is when you focus on a single event and make conclusions based on that single piece of negative evidence. So it's focused, oh my god, straight lines. And make, I can do this. I can't do this. So you take one experience and generalize it to every other experience. So you incorrectly conclude all similar events going forward will result in the same negative experience. An example here is a student receives a bad grade on one exam. Based on this, they think they're stupid and a failure and believe that all future exams they will get a bad grade as well. One that I like to talk about because it kind of relates to senpai is you have one bad experience with a dog, right? So you are walking down the street and you come across an aggressive dog and it growls and it like snaps at you. And based off of that one negative experience, you become terrified of dogs because all dogs are mean. All dogs will growl and snap at you, right? This happens a lot when it comes to friendships or relationships. After, you know, maybe a relationship falls apart, and you get hurt, you generalize that one experience to say, I'm never going to be in a relationship again because all relationships will just end up with me being hurt. Right? Or you go out and you try asking someone that you like out and you get rejected, and you take that one experience and say, I'm never going to ask anyone out again because I'm always just going to be rejected. So it is taking a single event and making a conclusion about all future events based on it. Next is jumping to conclusions. Lord knows we all do this. The first type is mind reading. So this is when you assume that you know what others are thinking. Assumptions of their intents occur with no evidence. So an example of this is a friend you're spending time with seems distracted or uninterested. You jump to the conclusion it has to do with you. So another example would be you're hanging out with a friend and they seem kind of like short with you. They seem kind of annoyed. So you immediately assume, oh, they must be mad at me. Or another example, you're walking down the street and you trip and fall. And then you assume that everyone around you is like, oh my god, they must all think that I'm so stupid. Right? So it's assuming that you know what other people are thinking. Right? Oh, they must think I'm stupid. Or they must think I'm a failure. Or they must be mad at me. The other kind is that one. Fortune telling. So this is making conclusions and predictions with no evidence. Oh, that's not going to be a straight one. That's not going to be a straight one either. There we go. And this can have negative outcomes. The example of this is that you have a date, but you predict the date will go bad. You make assumptions about the date before it even occurs. So you're predicting the future of an event that hasn't even happened yet. So this is already going in, like, this is going into something with a negative mindset. Another example is, thinking that, like, oh, before you even take the test, you're telling yourself already that you're gonna fail the test. Well, the test hasn't even happened yet. Or, there's a talent show, and you assume that you're gonna make a fool of yourself before the talent show has even happened. So you're predicting the future, often with negative outcomes without any evidence. Next is catastrophizing. There are two types of catastrophizing. There's magnification and there is minimization. The first type of catastrophizing, which is magnification, which is over-exaggeration, which leads to worries escalating to the worst case scenario, right? So an example of this, a person's lunch date is running late and they assume the worst. Their worries escalate quickly and thoughts become exaggerated. There should be... Nope, that one doesn't provide any decent examples. So an example of catastrophizing with like magnification. Ooh, stop, Belle, stop yawning. Maybe that water will help. So an example of magnification would be like, okay, so like you're at school and like there's this person you like and you're thinking about asking them out. But then you start catastrophizing and you're like, okay, but like what if I ask them out and like I trip in front of them and then they start like pointing and laughing at me, and then the rest of the school starts pointing and laughing at me, and then everyone starts making fun of me of and I'm never able to live that like down, and I'm going to have to like pick up and move somewhere else because I won't be able to deal with all of the shame of what happened. So it's over exaggerating an event and escalating it to the worst case scenario. Yeah. Or it's like, another one is, oh my god, what if like I apply for this job and then I don't get it, and I keep applying for jobs and I keep not getting them, and then I run out of money and I become homeless and I'm living on the streets in a box because no one will hire me. Right? So it is over exaggerating the worries and dangers of a situation. The opposite, but still catastrophizing, is minimization. So this is minimizing positive experiences. The importance of positive qualities are diminished. An example, hello? That's not what I asked for you to do. An example of this is, an athlete wins an award but does not acknowledge their accomplishment. They minimize the importance of the award. This is very similar to disqualifying the positive. But instead it's like, oh yeah, wow, you won this award, and you're just like, yeah, it's no big deal, it's whatever. It's cool, I guess. So you're minimizing the importance of your positive accomplishments. Stop opening this in another window. I do not want that. All right. Next up is personalization. This is when you take things personally, even if it's unrelated. And assuming you have, oh god, that's not going to be a straight line. So this, when you take things personally, which causes a direct personal reaction to what others do or say, even if it is unrelated. It's assuming you have been intentionally excluded or targeted. An example of this is you attend a party, but all your friends are busy engaging with other people. You feel like they do not have any interest in being your friend and engaging in conversation with you. This makes you think that you don't belong or are unfairly excluded. Right? So this is when you're taking a situation and attributing it to yourself, right? Another example is, again, your friend is in a bad mood and you immediately assume, I did something wrong. They're in a bad mood because of me, right? So you're taking this issue that really probably has nothing to do with you and making it about you. You're attributing the fault and the blame of the situation to you. Number 7, blaming. Lord knows we all do this sometimes. So, blaming, pretty simple. Blaming others, playing a oh god, I was so close. I can do this. I can do this. Okay. Blaming obviously includes blaming others, playing a victim, and holding other responsibles for their pain. Blame is external rather than blaming themselves or take some responsibility. So it's kind of the opposite of personalization. When personalization, you blame yourself constantly. Everything is your fault, right? But when it comes to this kind of blaming, it's always someone else's fault. It's never your fault, right? So an example is placing blame for relationship issues on your partner instead of sharing the responsibility for actions taken by both partners. You assume the victim mentality and think everything they do is to hurt you. So it's refusing to acknowledge or to take any responsibility in a situation and placing the blame entirely on someone else. Alrighty. Number 8, labeling. So this is assigning judgment to yourself or others based on one negative incident. That's not going to be straight. I can do this. Yes. So this is when you assign judgment to yourself or others based on one negative incident. Instead of recognizing, oh, you or others made a mistake, you attach a label that is exaggerated and solely based on the single incident. So this kind of goes along with overgeneralization. Because overgeneralization and labeling go often hand in hand. So like with the dog scenario, you have one bad experience where a dog tries to bite you, so you label all dogs as dangerous instead of recognizing that, like, oh, well, maybe I did something to piss the dog off, or maybe there was just an issue with that dog. Not all dogs are aggressive, but you attach it to this label to it of dangerous, and then you overgeneralize it to extend to all dogs. So the example they provide is you ask a colleague for help with a task you're working on. Your colleague quickly dismisses your attention and does not help you. Based on this, you assume they're a selfish jerk. They react negatively to you asking for help, but you do not realize the pressure and stress they are under. So, because of this one event where they didn't help you, you label them a jerk. And just assume that there's no point in asking for help because they're never going to help you. Ah, howdy Indy, stuck in traffic. Mr. PDF he's okay. It's more the mouse. Drawing a straight line with a mouse can be very difficult. Number 9. Always being right. We all know at least one person that's like this, right? They always need to be in the right, no matter what. This is when you internalize opinions as facts and will put others on trial to prove their opinions or actions are correct. they will go to great lengths to demonstrate their belief. So we all know this person, we all know that one person that you're just like, you're having a conversation with, and you're like, stop, Belle, wake up. What's an example? Oh, an example, I mean, like, to blow it out of proportion, is one time me and my friends were talking, and, about a movie, an animated movie, and I was like, oh yeah, you know that Disney film? And they're like, no, I think you mean Pixar. Pretty sure Pixar is the one that did that one. And I was like, are you sure? I swore it was Disney. In this situation, with the cognitive distortion of always being right, instead of just being like, oh yeah, well whatever, Disney, Pixar, and continuing the conversation, they would be like, no, I know it is Pixar. You're wrong. I'm going to Google it and show you right now that it was Pixar. Right? We all know those people who just take a casual conversation, and then the second there's a disagreement, they're like, no, I know I'm right. I have to prove it to you. The conversation cannot continue until they are proven correct. The example they provide is two people at work have a disagreement. One person believes it should be done their way because that's how it's always been done. But the other argues based on facts that there are industry standard procedures that need to be followed. The person completely ignores these facts and argues their opinion to any extent. An example would be, people who often argue from points of tradition. Well, that's how it's always been done. Being like, okay, yes, but that's not the best way to do it. And instead of engaging with, the facts, they're just like, but that's how it's always been done. So that's how we should continue to do it. Number 10. Should statements. It's kind of in the title. This is using statements like should, must, or shouldn't, and enforce these statements on themselves and others. Using these words should, must, and shouldn't create rules with a lot of pressure and impose a set of expectations that is not likely to be met. This is something that I know I struggle with a lot. Statements like, I should be exercising more, creates expectations that are not likely to be met. Let's handle that. The pressure created from the should statement makes it difficult to meet those expectations. And when the failure occurs, there is guilt and frustration, which makes you less likely to make another attempt. The issue with should statements, like they're saying, is it creates this expectation. By saying I should be doing this, what does that inherently apply about someone who doesn't do it? Right? So, I should, do the dishes. Right? Well, why should we? Because it's the right thing to do, right? It's the nice thing to do. So, when we don't do it, what are we saying about ourselves, right? If this is something that should be done and we don't do it, we're inherently saying that, oh, that means I'm not a good person. Or I am a failure. I should be able to do this. Another thing, because this includes shouldn't, is saying I shouldn't be upset. I shouldn't be sad, right? And by saying I shouldn't be sad, but I am, it means that there inherently is something wrong with me, or that I am overreacting because I shouldn't be feeling this way. The phrase that I was taught is don't shit all over yourself. So try not to use words like should, must, or shouldn't, because all it really accomplishes is you shitting on yourself. The better way to rephrase these kind of things is by saying, it would be nice if I could blank. I would like it if I could blank. It would be helpful if I could blank. It would be beneficial if I didn't blank. Right? Number 11, emotional reasoning. Any feeling must be true. Right? So if we feel the feeling, it means it's a fact. It's true. The emotion is accepted as fact because all logical reasoning is blocked out. Incorrectly assumes the negative feeling is the only truth. So, the example they provide is you might feel lonely because at this moment you are by yourself and your friends are off doing something fun. However, from this feeling, you assume no one loves you or wants to be around you. This, a little bit of a hot take, is I would in fact much rather not shit all over myself. Yes, that's the ideal situation, to not do that. But the key here is emotion does not equal fact, right? But the hot take is, you know, this has come up a lot recently. But, you know, just because you feel a certain way doesn't mean it's true. An example. I don't know, that might be too spicy. Might be too hot of a take. Let's say a more common thing is, you know, just because you feel alone doesn't mean you're actually alone, right? Your feelings don't necessarily reflect reality. And how do we know this? Because you can feel alone while you're in a group of other people. You can feel lonely even when you're not alone, right? I want to say it, but it's not good. Because it could be easily taken out of context. Okay. Not saying that this is true for most situations, but with things being the internet, people often like to take things, especially psych terms, and apply it to situations that aren't necessarily applicable. Right? So, just because you feel gaslit doesn't mean you've actually been gaslit. Right? People like to throw that word around a lot, but don't know what it means, right? You can feel like you've been something without it actually being true. Alright? And this can kind of happen in some scenarios, mainly with online drama or between friends, where one party feels like they've been gaslit, but the facts of the situation do not comply with that definition. Right? Just like how some people can be offended even though it seems like nothing offensive has been said. Feelings are not reality. However, that does not make your feelings any less valid. Right? This can get into sticky situations. So, gonna do a little more hot take. Here we go. I haven't really seen this necessarily in like as much relationships, but friendships. And only online, because of course it's only online. Oh, hey, model, you're freezing? That's cool. Oh no, my entire computer is freezing. That's cool. Oh, am I back? Man, the take I'm going to make is just too hot. It causes my computer to freeze. But I've only ever really seen this with people online. Oh, no, I have seen it with clients sometimes. Just because you feel like you were mistreated doesn't mean you actually were, right? I will relate this to myself. I used to go around based off of the way I was raised. And when I was dealing with stuff, would be like, oh yeah, you know, my parents were like emotionally abusive. But now that I've had space, no, they weren't. I felt that way, but that wasn't the reality of the situation. Right? So your feelings don't necessarily equate to reality. Just like, bringing it back, we can feel, this is the one that I constantly struggle with, it's I feel stupid, right? I feel stupid all of the time. But I've had an IQ test. I've had an IQ test done. And even though I feel stupid, I have literally the proof that proves that I am in fact not stupid. Right? But I still feel that way. Because emotional reasoning is emotional. It is based off of emotions and not logic. This is a very, very common cognitive distortion. Now, again, it's not to say that our emotions aren't important and they aren't valid, but they're not the end-all, be-all. Alright? Alrighty. Next up, control fallacies. There are two types of control fallacies. External. Straight line. And oh, that one wasn't straight. Internal. Alright. So the external control fallacy is your life is completely controlled by external factors. You have no say in it. You know, like, fate has already been decided for you. There's nothing you can do to change your fate, right? And this creates a feeling of of a lack of control, because you feel like, oh, well, there's nothing I can do to change this situation. I have a huge problem with bringing myself down and thinking I'm worthless when at times I'm actually very useful. Exactly. I mean, I first would start off by saying that no human being is worthless. But this often usually is a combination of emotional thinking, being like, I feel like I'm worthless, therefore I am. No, Indy! You are not a mate. But an example, I feel like I'm worthless, therefore I am. Where does this idea come from? Well, a lot of it comes from what we went over earlier. Oh, wow. Like mental filtering. Like disqualifying the positive things that you do, or that you can bring, or the skills that you have. And focusing on the negatives only. Oh, well, the positives don't really count. These are the ones that matter. See how it's linked? So, Indy, I'm sure you are useful in many different ways. I'm sure there are many different skills that you have, but you disqualify the positives of that skill by brushing them off by saying, oh, well, it's not that useful, it's not that helpful, it's not that big of a deal, you know, it doesn't really do that much. And then you magnify your negative qualities. And like, oh, but I do this and that, you know, that negatively impacts, like, so many things. Because I forget to sometimes pick up my socks, and that, you know, just leads to everything in my life falling apart. So, a lot of these cognitive distortions are linked together. Now, this isn't Pokemon, this isn't you gotta catch them all, right? We don't want all of the cognitive distortions in one, like, thought process. That's not what we're aiming for here. But the point is, by being able to recognize these, we can better identify where we're running into issues in our thought process that are making our lives more difficult than they need to be, or that are negatively impacting us. So, back to the control fallacy, an example of the external control fallacy is that a person cheats on their partner when they leave. What? A person cheats on their partner when they leave. They feel it's the person's fault and fail to see their actions were the cause. Whoa, wait. I'm sorry. Back that up. Excuse me? Okay, wait, okay, there's too many theys in this sentence. I don't know who they're referring to. Okay. A person cheats on their partner when they leave. When they leave as in they leave the relationship, or they just leave the home? Wait, no, okay, hold on. I think what this is saying, a person cheats on their partner once their partner leaves because they feel like it's their partner's fault and fail to see their actions were the cause. Maybe I can be the first Stop that! Stop that, Indy! First living... How is that helpful? We don't need living crash dummies. But what I think this person is saying is that, you know, a person cheats on their partner and says, oh, well, it's my partner's fault, you know, that I cheated. When, hey, buddy, no, it's not. You're the one that decided to sleep with someone else, right? That's external control. That, you know, you don't have any choice in the situation. It's always done by the choices that other people make. The opposite is the internal control fallacy. Where you assume that you have complete control over yourselves and your surroundings. And that makes you responsible for the pain and happiness of others. An example of this is a coworker makes a mistake on a task. You feel guilty and responsible because you reviewed their work and missed it. So now, this is your fault, right? So the difference is external control is basically, I have no control in my life, right? Everything is out of my hands. It's already been dictated by fate. There's nothing I can do to change anything. Internal control is the exact opposite, where it's, no, I have complete control over myself, my emotions, my thoughts, my situation. And so if anything bad happens to you or the people around you, it's your fault because you have control over it. Right? They can test the effects on organic matter so it's more realistic. I'm sure that the crash dummies they have are realistic enough. Yeah, exactly. That's not, that's like, it's a one-time thing. That's not very helpful. So it's better that you stay alive so you can do other things that are helpful. Next up is the fallacy of change. This is that others should change to suit your interest. This is when you pressure others to change because you feel the change will bring happiness. Convinced the happiness is dependent on the person changing. I truly believe that no one is ever 100% mentally okay. Yes, that no one is ever 100% mentally okay. And howdy, Amajiki. I hope you are doing well. So an example of the fallacy of change is a person might pressure their partner to change a few of their manners. They believe their partner is perfect in every other way except those few minor things and expects those changes to make them even happier. So this is the idea that, oh, well, if other people just change, things will improve. Not if you change, but if other people just change. It will make you and them happy. This one's a rough one. This one I still constantly fall to. Which is the fallacy of fairness. What if it's true? How do you know it's true? I mean, there are certain situations where it's like, hey, maybe if you stopped doing drugs, I think that change would be beneficial to you. Or, hey, maybe if you stopped murdering people, I think that change would be beneficial. But it's usually not things as important like that. It's usually things like the example said. Yes, it's beneficial to both people. That maybe if the other person, yeah, murder will, everyone needs that. If it's, hey, stop putting ranch on your pizza, like, man, if my partner just stopped putting ranch dressing on their pizza, our lives would be perfect. They need to change this, because I know in the end it will make us both happier. Right? Or a more common thing is, like, maybe your partner doesn't share a hobby that you're really passionate about. So you're like, oh, well, if they just change so that they like this thing that I like, we will both be happier. I've seen guys who think that only women cheating counts as cheating. Yes, I have seen that too. Sounds like narcissistic thinking. Yeah. I mean, it can be, but a lot of times people think, like, oh, it'll have benefits for them too. You know, maybe ranch is really high in calories and it's not good for your teeth. So see, it benefits them too. It will make their life better if they stop putting ranch on their pizza. It's a positive for both of us, right? Or maybe they like shopping. Shopping's expensive. So maybe if they just didn't like shopping anymore. No, I just made that shit up about ranch. I just made shit up. If they didn't have the hobby of shopping anymore, then we would have more money and we could save money and use it on things that are actually, quote unquote, actually important. You know, so it's beneficial for both of us. Not everyone needs to agree on stuff. Monty doesn't like my hero, and that's cool. Yeah. The idea would be like, oh, well, okay, but my friendship with Monty would be even better if he did like my hero, right? And so they should change so that they like my hero. So that way they can save more money by switching to Geico. Exactly. With their new home and auto bundle insurance. But it's assuming that if other people change, you'll become happy. Now, the next one is the fallacy of fairness. This one's hard, okay? I'm not gonna lie to y'all, this one's really hard. Because I think we all have this innate sense in us that all things in life should be based on fairness and equality. But in reality, not all things work out the way we expect them to, which leads to feelings of anger and resentment towards those things in life. So this is the fallacy that, you know, things should be fair in life. You know? With 12, how do you balance between the internal and external? Well, the internal and external, the fallacies with this these are the extremes. 𝒮𝓃𝒃. So the external fallacy is when you think that you can't control anything in your life. Everything is decided by external factors. Fate has already decided. There's nothing you can do to change it. So this is like when incels complain that they can never get a girlfriend because they lost the genetic lottery. So there's no point in ever trying. That's an external control fallacy. They're saying that there's absolutely nothing they could ever possibly do to improve themselves or to do anything that would get them a girlfriend because it's all out of their control, right? An internal control fallacy is when you have control over everything in your life. So this is when people tell you to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Well, you're poor? Stop being poor. You're sad? Stop being sad. You have control of everything in your life. You control whether you're happy. You control whether you're poor. You control whether you're whatever, right? So these are the two extremes. You're dead, stop being dead. Funnily, I go, well, yes, we all go through both of these fallacies. Obviously, the way to deal with it is to remind yourself that no one avoids only like Chads. It's in their DNA. Something, something, sexual marketplace value, something, something. The femoids. But the important thing is just to recognize, when you're falling into each of these. So I would often say marketplace value, yeah. Is to just recognize when you're falling into each of these. Because everyone is likely to do both of them. I know for me, I've fallen into the internal control fallacy, where it's like, you know, why am I not, I should just be happy. I should just make myself happy. Why, I'm in charge of me, I'm in charge of my happiness, so I should be happy. And if I'm not happy, that's my fault, right? Brain chemicals, what are those? And in those moments, I have to remind myself that, hey, you know, this is a cognitive distortion. This is not completely within my control. The opposite of that would be, I was born this way, there's nothing I can do to fix it, so why should I even try? I'm always gonna be depressed, I can't improve it, brain chemicals. I'll never get better. And when I have those times, I have to remind myself, no, that is also a cognitive distortion. There are things that I can do to help improve. I can do therapy. I can take medications. I can try and do things that I know are healthy for me. I can try and make sure that I check in with my support system. So we're likely to fall into both of these at different times with different scenarios. The key thing is that we can't control everything in our lives, but we can control some things. The factions of life you can and can't, yeah. The Simpsons mean, why didn't I think of that? But yeah. What were they? Right, the fallacy of fairness. Lord knows all the time I'm thinking that, you know, I'm like, life should be fair. Or, you know, I'm constantly saying like, well, that's not fair. Like, well, my brother got a chocolate bar, why didn't I get one? I should get one. 'Cause that would be fair. But that's not how life works, unfortunately. You know? Life isn't always fair. Things aren't always equal. And thinking that it should be will just lead often to anger and resentment. So the example that they provide is a person who struggles with low income might feel anger and resentment towards others who make more money than them. They might feel that they work just as hard, if not harder, than other people, but not are rewarded the same. And fun fact, that's probably true. They probably do work just as hard, if not harder, than other people, and are not rewarded the same. And even though they should be, that's not how it works. The other kids have dino nuggies, and I don't. I deserve dino nuggies. Yeah, you can put that energy into something. Damn, I want the car James has. You know what? I'm gonna save up and buy a car that's even better. I know that often this happens a lot with siblings. I didn't get my phone until I was in middle school. But my brother got his cell phone when he was in elementary school. That's not fair. That's not fair. But that's kind of just how it works. And this kind of goes hand in hand with the last one. I got mine at high school. Oof. Yeah, no, the reverse is true. Yeah. That's why I said sometimes, yeah, they work even harder. Just because someone is rich doesn't mean they worked for it. Alternatively, damn, it would be a shame if something happened to James's car. But what connects to this is the heavens reward fallacy. Is that you will be rewarded for all of your hard work. And often this will leave you disappointed because most things in reality are not fair. And going around expecting for people to reward you for your hard work will just lead to a lot of frustration because you're not guaranteed to get it. Right? The example that they provide is you're expecting to get a promotion this year because of your hard work. You believe you worked harder than the rest of your colleagues, but you didn't get the promotion. You feel resentment because you believe you should have been rewarded for your hard work. So I have low expectations. I don't think that's what they're going for. Not gonna lie, sometimes I live by that, being like, hey, if I have low expectations, I can't be disappointed. I can just be pleasantly surprised. But that's not the ideal, right? That's not the end goal that we're shooting for. But what it's trying to aim at is that you shouldn't do things in expectation for a reward, right? I would say the easiest way to say it is like, you shouldn't be a good person because you expect the other person to reward you for being a good person. You should be a good person because you want to be a good person. So, in this thing, this example would be like, you shouldn't work hard with the goal necessarily. You shouldn't go to work because you expect to be paid. No, not necessarily. But it's, you shouldn't work like super hard because you expect to be promoted. You should work super hard because it's something that you want to do. The reverse is also true. You shouldn't work super hard if it's not something you want to do. Just do the minimum so you don't get fired. The idea is that we shouldn't do things based on, like, solely on the outcome. The outcome can be an aspect of it. Obviously, we work to get paid so that way we can live and eat. But it's more of the idea that, like, what are our intentions going into a situation? Right? What are our expectations of the situation, and how does that affect our work, and our outlook onto the situation? another example would be like if you're in school. Well, it'll be like, well, I worked super hard so that I would get an A. And then you get an A minus, and then you're like, wow, I worked super hard for nothing, right? So instead of working hard to get an A, you should be like, I'm working hard so I can I can get the best grade that I can, right? That way it doesn't devalue the accomplishment of at least getting an A minus. And if you're that kind of person, be like, I want to work hard in this company, not because I want to be promoted, but because I want to be, you know, valuable to the company, or because I want to help my coworkers, or whatever. But the issue is, like, with the example that it gave, if you work hard solely with the goal of being promoted, and then you don't get promoted, it's likely to leave you feeling bitter and resentful because of all of that work you put in. And now you're like, well, now I did that at all for nothing. So that can't be your sole goal with doing something. If I put this bottle in the recycling, it'll save the planet. No. But if I put this bottle in the recycling, it will help to save the planet. Similarly, like, if I work hard, it will help in the chance of me getting promoted. It's by setting this reward as your end goal kind of thing that it becomes an issue. Ah, thank you for the hydrate. Delicious. Does that make sense to everybody? If so, we get to move on to part numero dos of today's subject. Goodbye, cognitive distortions. 𝒮𝓕𝓚. Oh. Okay. Well, it's been a while since, I mean, it's been, oh, okay, hold on. It's been a while since I've had someone do the kill the accent. If I ask mommy really nicely, it will increase the chances of her getting dino nuggies when we're at the store. Yes, you forgot how to... Well, I'm just so used to talking with it, especially when I'm streaming. I'm having to be very cognizant of how I'm speaking right now. To not. I feel the drawl in my throat trying to break free. To escape. Okay. Now we're on to topic number 2. Which is, fighting negative thoughts. How do we do this, you may ask? By going to court. The Southern is wanting release. We're going to put your... Oh Lord. Oh, hold on. Just a second. We're gonna... Hold on. Put your thoughts on trial! You're going to court. So, this is an exercise in combating negative thoughts. Alright? You can do it along with us. Oh my gosh. So, Obviously, you don't need this exact worksheet to do this. You can do this in your head. But when you have full-blown Sandy Cheeks talk, I feel like I do that already. So in this exercise, we will put a thought on trial. By acting as a defense attorney, prosecutor, and judge to determine the accuracy of what if there is no defense? Well, that's what we'll get to. So we're going to gather evidence in support of and against our thought. Evidence can only be used if it's a veritable fact. No interpretations, guesses, or opinions. So I want us all to pick a thought that we struggle with, okay? How big is this text gonna be? We'll see. That's very big. How do I make it not white? Cool. That's not what I meant to do. Where'd the text go? Actually, I've been pretty good. That's great! Well, then you can do a thought that you've struggled with before in the past. Why are you not becoming black? Stop. Stop being white. Belle taken out of context. Quite a few negative thoughts, mostly about myself. Yeah, that's usually how it works. So, here is my thought. The thought I am going to put on trial is I am dumb. Alright? Obviously, I'm doing a very basic thought. I am dumb. Stop being white. Dies of laughter. Alright. So, as Dio was saying, what evidence do we have for this thought, right? This is, again, no interpretations, guesses, or opinions. So, what evidence do I have for I am dumb? Let's see. Okay, I had to retake statistics and geometry. I had to repeat 2 classes once at completely different times. How can I make it not so big? I could say so many things ironically right now. Could you? Would you? Would you do that to me? Okay, no, seriously, where can I change the size? Ah, there it is. Okay, let's not make it like 200 and what? Oh, now that's tiny. Can we, there's no in between? Fine. I had to retake statistics and geometry. So that's an evidence for I am dumb. You had to go to the doctor because you did stupid stuffs. Okay, like what? My brother once got his pinky stuck in, like, a bolt. Because he decided to put it on and wear it like a finger. I mean, wear it like a ring. Wear it like a finger. What? Alright. Are you guys doing this along with me? You better have your own thought and be doing stuff like this. Pretty sure I've failed a test at some point in my life. So I'll add that. I thought the ink in pens tasted like grapes. Alright, how old were you? That will impact whether or not that can go in the defense. Alright, so I have 2 pieces of evidence. 9. I think that's okay. I don't think that's too bad. I think it's a borderline. Fun fact, if you can't come up with anything for the defense... Okay, thought, I'm not good at managing my irritable moods. If your evidence is I get irritable sometimes, I'm gonna say I don't think that's gonna stand up in a court of law. Alright, but what evidence do we have? Thought I am ugly. Okay. What proof do you have? Again, remember, it says can only be used if it's a verifiable fact. Right? No interpretations, guesses, or opinions. So you cannot, for example, say that an evidence is no one likes me. With statistical evidence hold up. Did you run the statistics yourself? But if you would say that, like, well, I guess it also was like, what does good, how do we define good? Okay. But I've already given the thought of that. Yes. Okay, so Amajiki has, well, okay, I've never had a girlfriend or a boyfriend. Okay. Could look at it from a behavioral point of view. I suppose so. So then, Dio, what would you put as for your defense? Being like, I am only able to, like, overcome my irritability, like, what, 40% of the time? Or something? Okay. I don't know what to do with my hair, so I just make it fluffed off and think it looks messy and everywhere. That is an interpretation and does not count as evidence. You can use the I've never had a girlfriend or boyfriend as evidence, but saying my hair looks dumb is not evidence. That would not be admissible in a court of law. Same with Andy, you've given the prosecution, but we're doing defense right now. So what definitive, verifiable factual proof do you have? I'm generally less talkative. Okay. But how does that prove you're not good at managing your irritability? I have 4 major cavities, 2 on my front teeth, 1 in my molar. That has nothing to do with you being ugly. Look, man, the British have horrible teeth and they're managed to get with each other. That has nothing to do with you being ugly. That is an interpretation. Or an opinion. As for the defense, I'm generally less talkative when I'm irritable. How does that prove that you're not good at managing your irritability? Because it could just be that maybe you're introverted. Maybe my ugliness is all subjective. Oh. Maybe it is. Maybe that's the point of the exercise. Maybe everything is subjective. I'm very introverted and shy. Well, shouldn't people try to be more social despite the irritation? No. I would say if you're irritated, social interaction is probably not the best idea for you, especially if social interaction often makes you more irritable. I would say if you're irritated, do something to manage the irritation and then be social. Because if you enter a social situation while irritable, you're more likely to make the social situation kind of worse for you and potentially worse for the other people involved. Now, if you're irritable all of the time, that's a different issue. But the answer to I am irritable all the time, the answer to that is not usually just be more social. The answer is usually like, okay, well, what is causing this irritability? Wait, can I call a witness? Who's your witness? Who is calling? Is this a witness for the defense or the prosecution? Objection overruled. No, I'll hear your objection. What is your objection? Or are we just doing the Ace Attorney? Objection! Aha! Ha ha ha. I'll ask Monty. No, that's an opinion. That is not a verifiable fact. Fun fact, Monty's opinion is not fact. I don't know, I just want to be feeling extra. You know what, that's fair. That's a mood. Alright? But I think we've spent enough time on Phoenix's side, so let's go over to Edgeworth's, okay? We're gonna go to the prosecution. What evidence do we have against our thoughts? Amajiki, Dio. Indy, I know you did it before. So, for me, first one would be I know for a fact that I have a high IQ. That's still white. Stop being white. Did not ask for this. Is it? It's still white. Why? Okay. Okay, there we go. I generally don't explicitly lash out at others. That's great. That's what often people do when they are irritated. They lash out at others. So that is a great example of you being good at managing your irritation. Good job. Another thing that proves I am not dumb is I graduated college. You have to be somewhat smart to do that. I have a few friends that enjoy really being around me. Exactly. Prosecution, I try to distance myself when I'm irritated. That's another great thing. You know that you're more likely to lash out at people when you're irritated, so you actively remove yourselves from situations where you might do that. And 𝒮𝓊𝓷𝒾𝒷𝓒e, you have friends that enjoy being around you. That is a perfect example. Something that 𝒮𝓊𝓷𝒾𝒷𝓒e can add to the prosecution. Senpai did not have a significant other for over 10 plus years. Prosecute, I don't drink or smoke to soothe the irritation. That's another great one. You don't rely on unhealthy coping mechanisms to deal with your irritation. So 𝒮𝓊𝓷𝒾𝒷𝓒e, not having another thing for the prosecution is not having a girlfriend or boyfriend doesn't necessarily reflect on one's attractiveness. When I post pictures of me, people often say, hey, you look good, and seeing as the majority think that way, then that's a good prosecution. Yes, that's technically an opinion, but I'll allow it. Because it's a positive. Another thing that I can add is I had a 3.6 GPA. That's pretty decent. Prosecution, I'm getting better and better at math. And I'm good at collecting trash and tea! Everyone here is being wholesome. Don't forget to put the trash, yes, if it's recyclable. And then you can add, you help save the planet to the prosecution. And as for ways that you're useful. Another thing that I can add is, that's gonna be intelligence. Includes, that I can spell, EQ. So being smart doesn't mean just being number smart. It can mean emotionally smart. It can mean socially smart. Being intelligent can mean a lot of things. Now I prefer to teach the earth who's boss. I have more things to worry about than being ugly, like being kind and wholesome and not giving a shit. True. So, now that we've done this, we've gone over what we have for the defense and what we have for the prosecution. Now, if you were a judge and you were listening and looking at the evidence that each side presented, what would your verdict be? I have to scroll down. Yes, people find other things that make me attractive. Yes, exactly. Attractiveness is not just about looks. Oh, the defense. Are we giving our closing statements or the defense is... Guilty! Damn, Phoenix Wright. Yes, you didn't win this case. And as judge of my case, the verdict is I am not dumb. Based on all of the evidence, I think it's fair to say that the prosecution brought a better case than the defense did. Sorry, the EQ being right here just kind of makes me want to like, Anyway, sorry. So, based off of this exercise, what have y'all found? What is your verdict? The defense is guilty, so Dio proves that the prosecution's case is stronger. Find 𝒮𝓄𝓰𝓷𝒾𝒷𝒄𝒃 not ugly. He is cute and he is hotter than Liam Neeson. Perfect. The jury has great taste, it seems. We're just waiting to hear back from one more court case. From the case of Indy v. Indy. Objection. We don't know if there's bias either way. True. Therefore, the court will strike the he's hotter than Liam Neeson part, as that is an opinion. The court will only recognize that 𝒮𝓄𝓰𝓷𝒾𝒷𝒄𝒃 is not ugly and cutie. Thank you, Prosecutor Dio. That's getting clipped and there's nothing you can do about it. Indy, have we heard back from your court case? What is the judge's verdict on Indy v. Indy? Thank you, Dio. Now that I know for a fact you're here. Are you gonna ruin our perfect streak? Come on, Indy, I believe in you. Christina Aguilera Beautiful 20 nice music video. I will take your word for it. Well, I heard through the judge grapevine that Indy ruled in favor, begrudgingly, of the prosecution. That he is in fact not useless. Indy is sentenced to 30 hours community service as a trash can. Oh, Indy. Oh, Indy. Well, thank you, Amajiki. I appreciate that. Alright. So that is that exercise. So that is one way that you can combat negative thoughts, is you take them to court. You Phoenix Wright them. Right? You become the ace attorney. Ah, howdy howdy senpai. Oh bot, that's not sub to me. One day. Objection, conflict of interest. Overruled! Because I'm the judge and I can do that. And you're gonna eat Salisbury steaks? That sounds awesome. And I am jealous. Enjoy the steaks. Belle is brilliant. I'll have you disbarred. You can't do that to me. I am the law. I'll have you thrown in jail. How dare you disrupt this court of law? Shenaniganing aside, Judge Dredd. It came in a pack with corn and apple shit. What is do I even want to know what apple shit is? How do apples shit? Judge Bay is absolute. Alright, alright. The last thing I have that I want us to go over, though everyone came back with a positive court case, so it's not as applicable, but I still want to go over it. Which is what we call the vertical down arrow. Cinnamon apple dessert. Thought trial Discord channel win. I mean, I could do that. Easy peasy. If that would be something y'all would want. So this is more used when, or if you find the defense to be stronger. None of us did, which is good. But sometimes when we have these kind of negative thoughts about ourselves, it can help to use this vertical down arrow to try and get to the core of what it is that we're worried about and what belief is like at the center of our worry. So what happens is we take the thought, you know, that we put on trial. So we'll go with the I am ugly, right? And then we start to ask ourselves questions, right? As it says, okay, so I am ugly. If that were true, it would bother me because it would mean, so if I'm ugly, if that was true, what would it mean, right? It would mean no one will love me. And then you take that thought, if no one would love me, if that were true, what would that mean? It would mean I am unlovable. And if we take that thought, if I am unlovable, if that were true, what would that mean? It would mean I don't deserve love. And then that I don't deserve love is like the core of the fear of being ugly. Does that kind of make sense? So this kind of down arrow thing helps us get to like the core fear that can be behind these negative thoughts. Let's at Indy. So let's go with the I am useless thought. If that were true, why would it bother me? Well, it would bother me because I wouldn't have any value. Okay? If I don't have any value, if that were true, why would that bother me? Because that would mean I don't deserve to exist. And then that would be the core, being of the fear of I am useless is that I don't deserve to exist. I've added everyone else, so it's time to add Dio. So if ours is I'm not good at controlling my irritation. Okay, if that were true, what would that mean? That would mean I lash out at other people. Okay, if that were true, what would that mean? That would mean I hurt people. If I hurt people, okay, if that were true, what would that mean? That would mean I am a bad person. And then that would be the core fear behind the I don't control my irritation well. Now again, thankfully, we all found that those thoughts did not stand up in our court. So, we don't have to worry too much about this. But if you're ever struggling with a thought and you find that it's really, really bothering you and you don't know why, you're like, why does this thought upset me so much? This can be a really helpful thing to help you get down to what the core is. What is the core fear behind this thought? Because that helps you to address what the thought is about. Because a lot of times, we cover up these core fears with layers of fluff in order to protect ourselves, right? But we gotta strip those away in order to get to the underlying issue. Howdy, Shiru. Dio, how you holding up? You doing okay there? Is everyone in chat doing okay? I know I added some of you guys. If you would like to talk, I am here. If this brought up some feelings or emotions or thoughts, I am here to discuss. We cover our problems with fluff. I'm in this picture and I don't like it. What if we know the core fear but don't believe any evidence to the contrary? Well, that's where the thoughts on trial comes up. Then you can bring that core fear on trial. Now, often what happens when we do the thoughts on trial or a fear on trial is we can come up with plenty of things for the defense sometimes. The hard part can be coming up with the prosecution side. So when you find that you're really struggling with this, talking to somebody who knows you, whether it's a family member or a friend, they can help you come up with things that are for the prosecution side. But you still need to believe the contrary evidence. Yes, that's why both sides don't use interpretations, opinions, or guesses. They have to be verifiable facts. Obviously, there's always this emotional disconnect between understanding something logically and understanding something emotionally, right? But the first step is to understand it logically, so then you can take the next step to get to it emotionally. First, we have to convince your logical brain that your thought or your core belief isn't true. But you still have to interpret the facts. Do you? If I say this apple is red and it is red, what interpretation is there? Music suddenly cuts out. No, it is green. If I'm holding a red apple and I say it is red. Okay, are we really going down the nothing is truly objective, there is no such thing as fact in reality route? Is that where we're going? Then you're colorblind. QED. Checkmate, atheists! But like I was saying, the first step is to understand logically, right? You can't convince yourself emotionally of something if you don't logically understand it first. Some apples are orange. No, wait, those are oranges. But sometimes you don't even necessarily need to believe wholeheartedly in the evidence that the people provide for the negative thought being false. Sometimes just engaging in the exercise of one, showing how little evidence you actually have in support of your thought. On what doesn't support your belief. Exactly! That's called confirmation bias. It's also what we talked about earlier with disqualifying the positives and magnifying the negatives. You come up with excuses to disqualify the importance and the validity of positive things. That is a cognitive distortion. A critical thinking error. But a lot of times when we come up with these thoughts in our head, they seem really strong. The negative, the defense seems super strong. Because a lot of proof and evidence that we have is emotion based. But like we did in the exercise, when we have to look at, okay, what is a verifiable fact for this thought that I have, we find that we come up with a lot less. But what is the difference between a legitimate excuse and a distortion? Well, are you finding a pattern? Are you conveniently able to come up with all of these legitimate excuses for all of the positive things you do? Does every success you have happen to have a legitimate excuse? Does every positive thing you accomplish happen to have a legitimate excuse? Does every negative thing that happens to you seem to be absent of an excuse of why it's not as important as it is? That's where it becomes the difference. And it also depends, okay, well, what is the excuse? If your excuse is like, we'll go back to the I'm dumb, and, you know, my friend points out, okay, but you got an A in that class. Is my excuse of, oh, well, that class was just, the teacher was really easy. Is that an excuse? Is that a legitimate excuse? Versus if it was like, I'm actually really dumb, and they pointed out, like, oh, well, you got an A in that class, versus my legitimate excuse being, well, I slept with the teacher. Right? Yes? Saying that that teacher just happened to be really easy? Well, is every class, you're like, okay, well, that teacher was just really easy. And you're like, okay, what about this other class that you got an A in? That teacher was also just really easy. Okay, but what about this one? That teacher was also just really easy. If you start seeing that pattern of, oh, well, all of the classes I happen to get A's in just happen to magically be really easy, does that sound like a legitimate excuse? Or does it sound like you diminishing your accomplishment? I feel like we can put anything on trial if we have a defense and prosecutor. Maybe. The teacher took pity. I don't think teachers do that. I think more teachers would be under the belief that by taking pity on you, they're just further prolonging your academic failure. Now, maybe the teacher took pity on you on an assignment, but saying the teacher took pity on you for an entire class, barring being like, oh, I just did bad and the teacher took pity, or being like, yeah, my grandma died, my cousin died, and my dog died all while I was in this class and the teacher took pity on me, that's a different story. One is a legitimate excuse that I had a whole bunch of horrible things happen to me while I was taking this class and therefore I didn't do well and the teacher took pity on me, versus, oh, well, nothing really happened. The teacher just saw that I was struggling. Maybe the teacher found you cool. I know, not the dog. But do you understand, like, what I'm getting at? There are legitimate excuses, and there are excuses that we try and pretend are legitimate. Maybe yes, maybe my teacher is secretly making meth in a lab out in, like, New Mexico, okay? Maybe, but what are the actual likelihoods? Yes, we understands this. But that's why having these conversations are important, because these excuses can feel legitimate to us, but once someone points out, being like, oh, well, that doesn't really make much sense, it can be really helpful. Because, pro tip, our minds aren't necessarily primed to always look at the positive of things. And they're definitely not primed to look at contrary evidence to our already established beliefs. So it can be hard to try and talk yourself out of negative beliefs that you have. If someone's not there to help point out, being like, hey, that doesn't quite make sense, or that doesn't quite match up with reality. Like, it depends on the economy. That's why talking about these is very important. Or if not talking about them, at least writing them down. But maybe everyone else is just wrong. If you keep running into the same opinion over and over and over again, and the only thing different is you, it's like, my stream has been broken and silent. I'm just starting to hear again. Oh no, Indy! But we've been having such good talkies. Talkies? What am I, 5? I'm sorry to hear that. Well, I'm glad it's at least back now. But Dio, that sounds like the cognitive distortion of blaming. You're taking no responsibility for the thought. We all know that one person who keeps becoming friends with people, and then their relationships keep falling apart. It happens over and over and over again. And they're always like, why are people so mean to me? Why are they so horrible? What did I do to deserve this? If you're going through multiple relationships and friendships with different people, and you're the only common denominator, where do we think the issue actually lies? Yeah, the Breaking Bad music comes on now. Again, the issue is looking for the pattern. Because it would be like, okay, you know what? It's fair to say maybe this one person is wrong. But then if you ask 20 people, what is the likelihood that all those 20 people are wrong and you are right? It could be just the area one lives in. Yes, it could be. But unless you're telling me the area you live in, everyone just so happens to think that you're like a useless piece of garbage, I think we have a lot more problems to deal with than just this negative thought. I have stopped yawning. No, that now that you mentioned it, I'm doing it again. Thank you. I hate those people who have everyone go out of their way to see themselves as a victim. Yes, that is blaming. That is the cognitive distortion of blaming, where you constantly put the responsibility and blame on others. You take no accountability for yourself and constantly paint yourself as a victim. I very much dislike those kind of people too, because I feel like it de-legitimizes the serious struggles and issues that actual victims face. But it can be very hard to get someone out of a victim mentality, especially because a lot of victim mentality develops after someone has been repeatedly a victim, and then that mentality permeates to every other aspect of their lives. And so while they legitimately might have been a victim in multiple aspects of their life, when it starts to infect every aspect of their life, then it becomes an issue. And then there's just some people who refuse to take accountability. But how do you then distinguish victim mentality from an actual victim? Like I said, the victim mentality often permeates to every aspect of their lives. There's a very big difference between saying, I was a victim of this situation, and I am a victim of every situation. Right? It's often something that you can't distinguish without, again, a pattern. Awa. Awa, awa. There you go, Amajiki. There was your awa, awa. Awa, awa. Awa, awa. Awa, awa. Awa, awa. Awa, awa, awa. And but like, the main way that you distinguish is through patterns. Right? Uwu, awa, awa. I saw the opportunity to... Fair enough. Because I think what really pisses at people off with the victim mentality is how they manage to make themselves the victim in everything. People are willing to be empathetic and sympathetic to someone who is a victim of a situation. People understand that things happen. But when you're the victim over and over and over again, and refuse to take any accountability, that is when it becomes a problem. Another way to distinguish it is often the severe lack of accountability. People who have been victims are usually more than willing to admit that they've done something wrong, because they're more likely to be critical of themselves. They're likely to think, what did I do wrong? What did I do to deserve this? They're likely to be suffering with the trauma of the situation that they face, and often blame themselves, and are more than willing to often talk about and point out the things that they did wrong in the situation. As the victim mentality develops, they're more and more likely to point out what the other person did wrong and minimize or completely obfuscate the things that they did wrong or contributed to the situation. Now, obviously, this isn't the end-all be-all. This doesn't apply to every single possible situation out there. But this is a general overview, if that makes sense. Were there any other questions? Or comments or concerns? Wow, it's getting really Western again. "50, 53 minutes of Wild West background music. Wow. Whoa, I can't be serious now. Oh, well, you guys are the one that put me into accountability. What if I'm delusional? A delusional person most likely would not be able to recognize that they're delusional. Like, a delusional person wouldn't really, like, be able to tell that they're being delusional. They would, like, just think that they're right, you know? It's very hard to convince a delusional person that they're delusional. That's kind of the whole point of delusions, you know? My wife is, like, suffering right now. Thank you, y'all. Y'all? But what about approaching I hate all of you. Approaching delusional? I would say if you think that you're, like, approaching delusional, to, like, go seek professional help. You know? I would applaud you for being able to, like, recognize that in this stage of your life. But I would probably go seek help and someone who specializes with that kind of stuff. Alright. Like, Uwu is over now. Now I just have, oh my god. So, like, now does anyone, like, have any questions? Now that, like, I'm not Uwuing or whatever. I don't know how much better this is, though. But I wouldn't, like, worry too much, Dio. You're, definitely don't strike me as someone who's, like, delusional. Is the doctor always right? Well, what are you seeing the doctor for? If you're talking about for like psych stuff, I would say no. That's why you go to see like a therapist or a psychologist or like a psychiatrist. And you're like always more than welcome to get a second like opinion, you know? If you feel it's totally okay to doubt them, you know? If you're unsure and to seek like a second opinion, like there's nothing wrong with that. But like if you keep getting like if you're getting second opinions for like your second opinions, then like that might be an issue. Does an apple a day keep the doctor away? I'm pretty sure if you threw an apple at a doctor every day, they would probably stay pretty far away from you. Why was Steph in a bad mood? It was cloudy day. Do you not like clouds? I love clouds. It's not cloudy out right now, but like it's super windy. I think I lost like 15 IQ from ooh. Really? I would think this would cause more IQ points to go. But it could be a bias in the medical community. It could be. But then you're kind of like fucked either way. Example, lobotomies. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, if you don't agree with what the doctor is like suggesting you do, you don't have to do it. You know? Bodily autonomy and all that. I mean, yeah, if I went to like a bunch of doctors and they were like, hey, how about we like take a part of your brain out? I'd be like, I don't know about that, fam. I might like have to pass on that. I think I'll just be depressed, thanks. Oh, you meant like cloudy, like cloud strife. Oh, cause Seth. Oh my god, I get it. Lol. Lamau. I get it. Oh my god, that hurts my throat sometimes. Depends, do I get to keep it in a jar? No, I think they probably keep it to like poke it. And study it or whatever. Oh lordy. But howdy Seth, hope you're doing well. That sucks, it's part of my body. Yeah, but like, I don't know if you'll have the mental wherewithal with a piece of your brain taken out. Oh wait, I don't have to speak like that. I don't know if you'd have the mental wherewithal to stream with a piece of your brain taken out. For streaming last Monday, maybe. Oh, well, I'm happy to help. I mean, we stream at that time anyways for Minecraft, but more than happy to wish you a happy birthday. But if that is all the questions and comments and concerns y'all have, I would say it's a good time to wrap things up. And yeah, old medicine is pretty terrifying. I am glad I am not alive then. But I'm sure people will look back and be like, oh my god, can you believe that, like, people did this? Medicine is always improving. And that's a good thing. Thumbs up. We good to go. We ready to rock and roll. All right. Let us get a raid on. We're gonna raid Naru. And here is the raid call for y'all. Here's the raid call if you're subbed. It works. My bot's just not subbed to me. Yeah, I'm glad you at least got to pop in at the end. And if you're interested, y'all can obviously rewatch this. I have a few of the Therapy Thursdays saved on my Twitch, and I believe every single Therapy Thursday has been uploaded onto my YouTube if y'all want to check them out. But thank y'all so much for coming, hanging out, and talking with me. Really appreciate it. I had a good time. And I think we got to talk about a lot of really good stuff. And of course, thank y'all for participating in our little thoughts on trial experiment. I very much appreciate that. I will be back Saturday for some more Harvest Moon. And then on Monday, back again with the Minecraft. So, thank y'all so much again. I hope you have a great morning, night, noon, evening, afternoon, wherever it is where y'all are. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye!